Welcome to Redtastic. Story 1. My husband, 30 male, and I, 27 female, have a passion for travel. We barely stay home for more than a month and are always on flights. Fortunately, we both work from home, making it super easy to make these plans and keep our jobs. We have always loved exploring the various corners of the world and met this way too, on an international group tour. My husband has 2 older brothers, both out of state, and 1 younger sister, Linda, 19 female, the youngest of all 4. My mother-in-law is a single mother and raised all her kids on her own. I have to admit she did a great job and is strong, but she has spoiled her only daughter so much that she refuses to move out or even get a job, since her mom takes care of all her expenses, never letting her daughter lift a finger. Linda is a downright brat who cannot stand anyone being happier than herself. One example I can give you is when my husband and I planned our first international trip after our honeymoon. It was 3 months after our honeymoon and we had decided to go to Europe for a week, just for fun. Linda, being the spoiled brat she is, faked a whole engagement and made her mom force us to cancel our trip and all our bookings and reservations so we could attend her engagement party. 2 days later, on the day of the party, everyone was dressed and waiting for Linda. But Linda was nowhere. We found her 3 hours later, drunk out of her mind. My mother-in-law treated her as if she was a 2-year-old and didn't question her at all. My husband, on the other hand, was furious and demanded answers. Linda's drunk self admitted the ring was a fake from Amazon and that she wasn't even seeing anyone, and faked it all so we could cancel our plans. We were red with rage, but I kept quiet and went straight home and started packing so we could continue with our trip. This wasn't the first time Linda got our trip cancelled. 2 months ago, my husband and I were planning our anniversary trip. We make this one special and well planned out so we have enough time to explore as well as just relax. We usually go all out and book everything 5-star and fancy, so yeah. It is a pretty big deal for us. It was our 3rd anniversary, so you would think Linda got her shit together by now, but no. No, she did not. We had gotten pretty used to her tricks to get us to cancel our trips, but this time she outdid herself. Linda threw herself off the stairs of the house she still shares with her mom, broke her ankle, drove herself to the hospital, and got a cast put on. I did not believe one bit of it. It was all too staged, and how come there were no doctor's reports she could show us when we asked? Her mom was doing everything to make Linda feel better, but Linda was adamant she would only feel better if her loving brother took good care of her. In easy terms, she wanted us to cancel our anniversary trip. Luckily, my husband also saw through it all and decided we weren't going to cancel our trip, and we'll just leave without telling them. That's exactly what we did, and we had the best time with our phones on D&D the entire trip. It has been 2 months since that incident, and now we will be leaving for all our trips without mentioning it to anyone. That was the plan until just recently. Mother-in-law came to our house this morning at 8 a.m. She said she had something super important to discuss with us and sat us down. She then began explaining how Linda has been very sad and depressed lately and feels as if her brothers are drifting away from her ever since they all got married. She then suggested that since my husband is the only brother of hers in the state, Linda should stay with us in our guest room until she feels she's better. I immediately stood up and said that was not possible. My husband and I work from home and need the privacy of our own house. Plus, we go on trips often and I'm not comfortable with someone else living in my house in our absence. That's when my mother-in-law came up with a genius idea. Why don't you guys take her along on your trips? It will be a great change of environment for her and she will get the chance to bond with her brother. My husband and I gave each other a quick look, clearly thinking the same thing. How crazy this idea was, and in no way were they going to agree. My husband politely declines, saying it simply isn't possible. My mother-in-law lost it. She started blaming me for blackmailing her son, and that her son now doesn't have the guts to defend his family in front of her. My husband told her to leave immediately, whilst I paced in anger. We started to plan another trip as it is our remedy to any stress we deal with, far away from all the drama. Update: it has been a few years since all the drama that unfolded around our 3rd anniversary. I gave birth to a baby girl and my husband and I moved out of state, closer to my family as they're much more helpful and supportive when compared to my in-laws. A lot of crazy things happened after the move. My mother-in-law started dating someone, and when he moved into her house, both he and my mother-in-law wanted Linda out, as she couldn't keep a job longer than a month and used all my mother-in-law's money. Once kicked out, Linda had nowhere to go, so she called me and asked if she could move in with us as a permanent day and night nanny for our daughter. I politely declined as I have all the help I need and don't need the toxicity around my baby. Linda has been messaging everyone I know, telling them how horrible of a person I am and how selfish I am not letting her meet her niece. Everyone has blocked her number, and I heard Linda is now living in a shared accommodation with 5 other girls and is working as a waitress. I'm really happy you and your husband are smart people, OP. I'm glad you decided to move out of a toxic situation and leave for a more peaceful and supportive environment. Your sister-in-law sounds like a nightmare. I wouldn't want to be near a person like her, especially when your mother-in-law wasn't seeing her tricks and she was just giving in to her silly demands. Unfortunately for Linda, her mother has had enough of coddling her and she's living on her own now. It will probably take Linda a while to get used to this life, but I wish her good luck. She needed it. Take care, OP. Story 2. After my friend and I went to an escape room, she said she was hungry and I offered to cook. She accepted and we headed over to our house. There she asked why I haven't gone to her restaurant in a while. She works for a nice restaurant in town and we used to frequent because she got an employee discount. I told her I pretty much stopped going to restaurants completely. She asked me why, and I told her inflation and the expectation to tip 20% at least has made restaurant food ridiculously expensive. She got annoyed and told me I could afford it. I live in $1 million house. My husband and I make good money, but I don't see why that means I have to go to restaurants. I told her the main thing at restaurants I like to order, steak, is now $50 for the mediocre one, and I can get a top quality ribeye for $30 that I can cook in compound butter and fresh rosemary. She made a face and told me that people with money that don't have children should be helping prop up the industry and complaining about tipping when I'm doing well. I felt attacked and told her I'm doing what everyone's advice is. If I can't tip enough, not to go out. I'm annoyed by how high tipping has gotten. We don't even live in the US, we live in Canada. She told me the restaurants can't even hire enough waitresses now, so even with tips, most people don't make enough serving. I told her it's not my problem if they don't make enough, it's their boss's job to pay them, and when I do eat out, I tip what is expected. She got really mad and told me I should be more sympathetic to her, since she can barely pay her bills waitressing, since less people are eating out and tipping, and refused to talk to me while we ate. Not the a-hole OP. This is something I've read about where they do try to convince servers the problem is the guests not tipping enough, when the real problem is server wage is a joke. Your friend is being super unreasonable. They are demanding you go out to eat subpar food and overpay for it to benefit the people not being paid a fair wage by their employer. It is not your job to ensure people are making a living wage unless you are their employer. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. To me, it just sounds like she wants you to go where she works so you can tip her. You aren't her employer and it's not your job to pay her. She also has no right to tell you how and where you should be spending your money. I'm sympathetic to your friend's problem, but she could get another job or hopefully a higher paying job. And it's not your responsibility to make sure her bills are paid. Not the a-hole. Servers in Canada make minimum wage. If she can't afford to live on her income, like many Canadians can't, then she needs to get a second job, get a new job, or change a lifestyle. It's incredibly shitty that so many Canadians are in that position, but that's the current reality. tipping in Canada has also gotten wildly out of control. And you're not an a-hole for deciding to stop eating out when the price of food and expected tip amounts have spiraled so high. Not the a-hole, eating out has gotten more expensive. You, like many, many other people, have chosen to eat out less often. Your waitress friend is struggling to pay her bills because of a macroeconomic trend. She can pressure you all she wants, but you will not be able to single-handedly prop up the economy enough to improve a situation. What reaction was she hoping for? That you would start giving her $40 each week? Let's just pretend I went to the restaurant you work at and this is your tip. Story 3. I, 29 male, had a kid with my ex-wife, 32 female, 10 years ago. My daughter, and there is no real way to sugarcoat this, but as soon as she was born, I left. And I never ended up seeing her in the hospital as a baby. Was never really present in her life at any point, but ended up getting a divorce 11 months later, with her getting full custody, of course. I married young, was really stupid, and thought I'd end up being a good dad despite no skills, but got scared that I'd turn out like my dad and chickened out. Not really an excuse, but an explanation, I guess. I paid child support for the first 3 years, but stopped afterwards. I've been speaking with the girl's mother about reconnecting with her, but she thinks it's best that I stay out of their lives majorly. But I think making amends is always possible, so I'm not sure. I just really want to make things right, but I will respect their decision. I've seen her a few times, but her mother has always introduced me as a friend. She says she will tell her when she's ready. I've been dating a girl, 28 female, for about 10 months now, and I really like her. I think I could definitely see a life for us, and I know that sounds weird, but she's also said the same. I was also speaking to my daughter's mother about meeting this girl, but she says absolutely not, and that's a bad idea. But if I want to reintroduce her into my life, isn't it fair that she gets to see my life too? Am I the a-hole for this? Her mother says it's a very bad idea. So it's making me think I am, but I just genuinely cannot see why. Obviously, I care for this girl and I will care for her life too. But a relationship has to be two-sided. I don't think it's out of the question to show her my life too. Now for some comments. Right, we have 2 data points here. Number 1, this guy is completely disinterested in this child. And number 2, this guy is aware that this reflects really poorly on him. The obvious conclusion is that the motivation here is to con this new girl into thinking he's a halfway decent person, or at least not someone who will do to her and her potential child what he did to his ex and hers. The fact that he's clearly only interested in the child as a human prop to deceive his girlfriend and doesn't register the emotional harm that would do to the child pretty solidly indicates that he likely would do it again. Yup, we can see the part he cares about is getting what he wants in terms of what will make him feel good. He doesn't want to reconnect with his daughter for his daughter's sake, or even really for his own sake. It seems like he kinda sort of wants to have a part in the girl's life, but his main focus is getting to introduce his girlfriend. If he had come here and told a similar story but without the introducing the girlfriend, we would probably all feel a little differently. But instead he's only concerned about his needs and wants of introducing his girlfriend. Yeah, dude, you're the a-hole majorly. If you really cared and wanted to be in her life, you wouldn't even be thinking about your needs and wants. My ex-husband did this too. Had nothing to do with our daughter since she was a year old. Never pays child support. We moved on, moved out of state. She's been raised by her stepdad since before she could walk or talk. And we have a new baby in the family as well. All of a sudden I heard from him out of nowhere. He was contesting my out-of-state move after I moved, and he hadn't seen her in years. The move had already been approved at a court hearing he couldn't even be bothered to attend. Come to find out, he was dating a new girl and she was even present with him in court. Naturally, the custody arrangements didn't change, and the only thing he was offered was video chats with my daughter, which naturally he never utilized. He was only showing off with a new girlfriend and trying to come across as a decent guy. I suspect this is the case with OP as well. And you're the a-hole, OP. Leave this child alone.